Even though Super Paper Mario is pretty different from the first two games, it still has the simple 8 chapters. And yes, you could say that it obviously has 32 levels in the game, but quickly, I'm just gonna pause. Okay, I already ranked the 32 levels in this game, so please, if you have not seen that, please check it out. Also, the fact that this ranking is basically an average of the placements of each level, so make sure to check that video out first, or at the very least, make sure to check that video out after you're done with this one. But other than that, let's actually get started. God, I hate Chapter 7 so much. And it's really sad that 7-1, a level where you walk to a few rooms that you've already done platforming for, is better than half of the levels in this chapter. And the reason why this chapter sunk so low is every single level. Every single level contributed to being as low as possible on this list. Not only does 7-1 basically have nothing in it, 7-2 has a really annoying light mechanic, 7-3 has a really annoying fruit mechanic, and 7-4 is just really confusing to navigate. And while I do think that 7-4 is probably the best level, it's a horrible level for a -4 level, which is just really disappointing. 7-2 sucks because of the maids as well, where they teleport you all the way to the bottom. And it just is so annoying because if you pick the wrong one, then you have to backtrack for no reason. In 7-3, I hate the fruits so much. I wanted to rage quit the game because I did not want to find the fruits. Thank God that there's signs that actually tell you where each fruit is. If I didn't have that, it would be a nightmare for me. Then there's 7-4, which I think this is probably on me, but this is a really hard level to navigate. I actually think that that level is harder than navigating, I guess, the Great Maze in 8-4, which is really sad because it's not really trying to be that hard to navigate through, but I really struggled through it. The music in the overwear just sucks for me. I like the music and the atmosphere in the underwear, but in general, I just hate Chapter 7 so much. Okay, Chapter 5 is basically split. There's 2 good levels and 2 bad levels. I'm going to start with the bad levels first because I want to get them out of the way. 5-1 is my least favorite level in the game because of the stupid long combination, and also those mammoth enemies right before it. They do a ton of damage and they have a ton of health. But, okay, the combination. I hate that combination so much. Before you actually get the combination, you have to say please a ton of times. And then when you get the combinations, you have to write it down. You have to write this combination down. That's how you know that this is not good for a video game. And because I didn't write it down, I had to look it up on a guide. If you had to look something up on a guide because you're stuck, that's fine. But if you're looking it up because you just forgot something, then it's really stupid in my opinion, especially in this circumstance. That's the problem with it. This level made me look up a guide. If you didn't look this up, then I'm actually pretty proud of you. 5-3, while being miles ahead of 5-1, is still not that good of a level, and every single problem I have with this level deals with the minecarts. In general, I actually like that really long linear path, I like the enemies, and I actually really enjoy the music and the atmosphere of this place. But the problem, again, is with the minecarts. They're really slow, they slow down the pace, and that stupid red arrow where if you don't flip, you're not going down that path, is really annoying. For new players, you're not going to be able to go down that path first try, which doesn't mean you just flip and go back. No. You have to go back and then you have to ride forward again, which slows down the pace even more because these minecarts are so slow. And then you have to ride it down again. There's so many minecart rides that it's just not fun anymore. And it wasn't even novel to me the first time I actually used them. It wasn't really that fun. Maybe if you actually had some control of the minecarts, then it would be fun. But in general, they're just not fun at all. But at least there are some good levels to counteract these bad levels. First off, 5-2 is a really simple but fun puzzle level where you have to find these 3 tablets and put them in a certain order. It's very simple, it's very fun, they don't feel too annoying to actually find, and you get Cudge, a very simple pixel that is just a hammer. A very good level. But if we actually want to talk about good levels, we gotta obviously talk about 5-4, which has a really weird sequence of puzzles. It's very linear, but I actually like it because you get all these options up front at you, but you don't actually know what to do first until you actually realize the first part of the puzzle, which is very nice. I like the chapter boss, I like the mid-boss of that level, and I just like the new pixel. Well, I won't like it after 5-4, but I will like the pixel in this level. Overall though, Chapter 5 is basically balanced. I just think that this is a mad chapter overall, getting really sunken down by 5-1 and 5-3, but barely getting held up by 5-2 and 5-4. Chapter 2 is actually pretty similar to Chapter 5, but the only difference is while Chapter 5 has every single level trying to balance each other out, Chapter 2 really only has a really good level, a really bad level, and then 2 levels that are just okay. Obviously the really bad level is 2-3. I mean, come on. It's 2-3. Having to just run on a hamster wheel is just so stupid. It's not the worst level in the game, but it's not fun. It's definitely my bottom 3. Then there's 2-4, the level that's actually trying to counteract 2-3, which is a really fun level, and it's really adding that Mimi is chasing after you, and she is invincible. You can't actually stop her, so it's really intimidating and scary. It's really enjoyable. Then there's 2-1 and 2-2. 2-1 is a bit better than 1-1, but it's just very bland. I think the only thing that probably saves the level is that you get Boomer, a pretty decent pixel. And then 2-2 is okay. It's very simple for a pro because they know exactly what they're doing, but I know for a new player it probably will be pretty hard to find out what to do, because you have to actually jump on top of the spikes when a new player is just trying to get out of there as fast as possible. So it's a very difficult level for a new player, but a pretty easy one for a pro player. So this chapter is very simple. The music is just okay. The atmosphere is good. I do actually like Merle's Mansion a bit, but in general, this chapter is okay. Chapter 1 is a Chapter 1, okay? None of these levels are bad. I do think that 1-3 is probably the worst, because in general, it just has some stupid puzzles like jump under the red tree 10 times, or press minus and 1 at the same time to actually produce the stupid thing. Like, that's the thing about it. 1-3 has some stupid puzzles, but I mean, in general, 1-4 is a bit better than every other level, which again kind of balances it in a way. 1-1 and 1-2 are very simple, and that's the thing about it. 1-4 has a cool boss and cool atmosphere and some cool music, and it's a bit threatening, and I also like where all those, I guess, spiky balls just fall down and it makes a platform for you to stand on and actually move through. That's really cool. I like that. Those simple things are really good to actually push 1-4 to probably be the best level in Chapter 1. But it's Chapter 1. This chapter is going to be very simple, and obviously if you compare it to other chapters, it makes sense why it's simple. But I mean, I'd rather have levels that are simple and boring than levels that are annoying and repetitive. So, I mean, I'll take Chapter 1 over the other chapters that we talked about. Chapter 4 is a very sad chapter because we're back to the situation of 2 levels being bad and 2 levels being actually really good. And that's probably why it's number 4, because the 2 levels are really good. One of them is actually my favorite level in the game, the Woe Zone. I really like the boss, and I really like the music, I like the atmosphere, I like the fast pace. It's just a really fun level. 4-2 is a really fun level because of anti-gravity, even though the flipping can definitely get annoying. But I will say that 4-1 and 4-3 are not fun because I don't like the flying mechanics. And it's just because they're not that fun. They don't control well with a Wii remote. And I'll also say that 4-1 is really hard to navigate. I just go through black holes just hoping that I reach the end. With 4-3, at least I know exactly where to go, but if you're a new player, it's going to be a nightmare trying to find out where each thing is. Chapter 4 is a very interesting chapter. I really like that it's in outer space. I like the first time that you actually get in there, you have to get teleported back. And then you actually have to get a fishbowl to actually wear as a helmet. I like that. I actually like having to use Squirps as like a shooter. That actually makes the Brobot fight one of my favorite boss fights in the game because of the shooting mechanic. Because it doesn't do a ton of damage, but it just shoots so much, and that's why it's fun. Again, half these levels are really fun, but the problem is that the other levels are just not that good, which probably makes it only at number 4. It's definitely a good chapter though, overall. Chapter 6 is a very controversial chapter, and I absolutely understand why, but the reason why that this chapter is so high is because of 6-3, and if you don't know what I'm talking about with 6-3 and 6-4, again, check out my level ranking, you'll know exactly why I say 6-3 and 6-4. But 6-3 is the Void Destruction. It's just all gone. Obviously it has a really cool fight that I did sadly find out how to cheese, so it did make it less interesting. But at the end of the day, it actually shows the destruction that the Void would cause, which is absolutely the reason that it's my favorite level in Chapter 6. And also, I don't actually find Chapter 6-1 or 6-2 that annoying. And I know people will probably complain about fighting 20 guys, and that's fair. But in my personal opinion, if you prepare with the right items, then it's fine. Again, if you're a new player and you don't know what's coming, I feel really bad for you. But in general, I can prepare for it. And that's why I'm totally fine with the level. And then 6-4 is just a very simple platformer level, kind of like 5-2. And it's very fun. You just having to use Luigi's abilities and switching the water is very fun. And I like that you actually have to show the destroyed pure heart to people. It just is a really fun level and a cool story. I like this chapter a lot. It's a really fun chapter that explains the story way more in-depthly than you actually have seen it before. Chapter 3 is just so fun, and let's just get this out of the way. The visuals are so cool. I really like having those little squares as the design option, and it's a really good choice that they made. Now let's go through each level individually. 3-1, a very simple level, and it's actually better than both 2-1 and 1-1 because it has some really interesting concepts. One, it's basically trying to replicate 1-1 from the original Super Mario Brothers, and it definitely does it well. Obviously, it's not a copy of it, but it still does it pretty well. Also, I really like the underground theme and the, obviously, just you being in the underground. Also, a Koopa getting a Power Star is really funny. And it's not really hard to take out, which is a bit disappointing, but it's just funny seeing a Koopa get a Power Star. Then you get to 3-2, probably the worst level in the game, just because you get Bowser in 3-1, which I forgot to mention, his castle is pretty cool. And, I mean, why are you using his ability that's fire in a water level? It just doesn't make that much sense. But in general, it's a fine level. It's probably, again, the worst, but that's just probably because it's a water level. And obviously, the other 3 levels are just really good. And then 3-3, probably one of the best levels in this chapter. Straight up because it's just such a simple platformer and puzzles. Having to switch the platforms back and forth is really fun, and it's leading to some really good puzzles. I really like that. I also like having to use Bowser to burn down some of the tree. Very creative. But then you get to 3-4, the best level in this chapter. A bit overrated in my opinion, but it's definitely a really good level. You get Carrie in this level, my favorite pixel. You get all these weird true or false questions. It's amazing at the dating sim. Francis is just a great character. Okay, chapter 3 is such a fun level, but the other thing that I forgot to mention is that since Francis takes Tippy away from you, you don't have to deal with those Tippy puzzles where you have to point the Wii remote at the screen and actually just uncover stuff. I hate that mechanic so much, so I'm glad that that was actually taken away for this chapter. It was such a breath of fresh air, and it's so fun because of it. And obviously just those simple stuff like the dating sim, 3-4 as a level in general. I love chapter 3-4 so much, and chapter 3 in general. I mean, if you see my level ranking, you know that 4 out of the top 6 were literally all levels from chapter 8. So easily this was gonna be number 1. And some people might be asking why, and I will point out the biggest flaw. These levels are not really well designed, and that's very true. I don't think that, especially 8-4, they aren't really well designed at all, which is actually why I like the Woe Zone more than every one of these levels. But in general, the story, everyone dying, all the really difficult enemies, all the really fun bosses, all revisiting areas, Dimentio, the ultimate show, the music, the atmosphere. There's so much to love about this chapter. Now, normally in Paper Mario games, the final chapter isn't my favorite because it just feels a bit generic and you know what's gonna happen. But because the story in Super Paper Mario is so perfect and complex, and it all gets wrapped up here, this has to be number 1. I really like the design of the level. I enjoy every single boss. Every single boss is at its most difficult in the game, and it's really fun because of it. And, oh my god, the story is amazing once you get to 8-4. 8-4 is my favorite level because of the final boss and the story, which is a bit cop-out in a way, but I just love that level so much because of it. I love all the really difficult enemies. I'm repeating myself at this point, but I don't care. While I'm not sure if this is my favorite chapter in all of Paper Mario, it's definitely in my top 3. Thank you guys for watching this video. My next video will be on Super Paper Mario and in a format that you guys have obviously seen on my channel. And if you've lasted this long and you aren't subscribed, what are you doing? I'm a small channel. I need all the subs that I can get, and I really appreciate it if you do it. But other than that, thank you guys for watching this video.